Yeah. Ugh. He's always bad. I'm ready. Coming up, Baton Rouge activist Gary Chambers is set to run for U.S. Senate. We've got an inside look at his campaign. And Louisiana's economy is headed for a rebound. Hear from the state's top economists on their latest revenue forecast.
You're watching This Week in Louisiana Politics with Fred Childers.
Good Sunday morning to you. I'm Fred Childers. Thanks for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics on your local election headquarters. Louisiana's top economists are forecasting the state will continue its rebound from the pandemic. The Revenue Estimating Conference met at the Capitol to help shape what the state's budget could look like. Political reporter Shannon Hecht breaks down the key points for us.
Economists told the conference today that they expect Louisiana's economy to continue to bounce back in a very strong way and that there might be some extra dollars to work with in the budget. With people back to work and federal aid allowing for people to spend more, Louisiana is projected to have over $847 million in excess in fiscal year 22.
General sales tax, personal income, corporate remain significantly above trend and appear to be at what I would characterize as a potential crest.
That crest mentioned by the Legislative Fiscal Office is forecasted for fiscal year 25 and on as the economy levels out from the pandemic aid. The Revenue Estimating Conference has been cautiously optimistic on how the state recovers from the pandemic. That excess money for this fiscal year is going towards paying down some debts, like the federal levy debt from Hurricane Katrina.
Were that not already allotted, we'd be over $1 billion in the current year that we would have to spend. But it just shows how conservative our forecast was.
The conference once again sided with a more conservative outlook of the amount of revenue coming in for fiscal years 22 and 23. But even that report anticipated an additional $770 million being added to the budget following the tax trends. Members of the conference will be meeting with the governor over the next 2 weeks to come up with the official budget that will be debated in the 2022 legislative session that is set to begin in March. At the Capitol for your local election headquarters, I'm Shannon Hecht.
All right, look forward to those debates. Coming up at the state capitol, the special session for redistricting will officially take place. It'll take place from February 1st through the 20th. Lawmakers will be using 2020 census data to draw new district lines for the state House and Senate. They also will be redrawing the districts for the Louisiana Supreme Court, which have not been changed since the 90s. What started as a proposal to provide pay raises for Shreveport police and fire has grown into raising the pay of all city employees up there in North Louisiana. Alexandra Meacham brings us the details of the week's long battle.
Councilman Grayson Butcher originally proposed a 13% pay raise to retain police officers and firefighters. But after backlash from other city employees, other council members proposed a 13% pay raise for all city employees. During the meeting, another pay proposal was included solely for police and fire, but it would have given them a double raise, causing confusion on the council.
Get someone to withdraw it. I'm going to ask my other colleagues, would you please vote this down because it's an embarrassment to the city of Shreveport.
My personal opinion was that 224 was to symbolize something that really meant nothing. I mean, it may have meant something to two of my colleagues, the authors, but at the same time, I got a lot of reaction from city employees who felt like this was a slap in the face.
That proposal was voted down, while the overall employee pay raise was approved in a 5-2 vote. Butcher and Councilman John Nicholson voted no, citing their original reasons for focusing on retaining police and fire, while city employees stood in the back and cheered when they heard they're getting a raise.
It was good. It was good. You know, we were looking for this to happen. Make it this. The chairman said that they were going to do what they were going to do.
It's an effort Mayor Perkins strongly supported.
People were disturbed when they heard our employees hadn't gotten raises for years. So to be able to compensate our employees in this magnitude means a great deal to me, and it means a great deal to our citizens in the city.
The bulk of the pay raises come from the American Rescue Plan, which are one-time dollars.
But if you look at the receipts from last year and our sales revenue, we can sustain this further out. How far out right now, we don't know. We're going to have to watch next year, and we're going to have to compare the numbers. But right now, we have a plan for sustaining these numbers.
On Thursday, the U.S. Supreme Court blocked the vaccine or test rule for U.S. businesses with more than 100 employees, but it allowed the White House to implement the vaccine mandate for most healthcare workers. This case brought Louisiana to the forefront of the vaccine mandate battle as Attorney General Jeff Landry took charge of filing these lawsuits against the federal government. Well, U.S. Senator Bill Cassidy, a Republican from Louisiana, is taking aim at the voting rights legislation backed by President Joe Biden. The president and fellow Democrats argue that since so many states have changed their voting laws, this legislation is needed to protect your basic rights to vote. But Cassidy describes it as a power grab. Listen.
His bill takes away the state's ability to run its own election. It allows unlimited ballot harvesting. It also gives tax dollars to political campaigns. It bans common sense voter ID laws that an overwhelming majority of Americans support.
Now, that voting rights bill is expected to see a vote on Capitol Hill very soon, possibly even Monday. And of course, we'll keep an eye on it for you. Coming up after the break, Baton Rouge teachers organize a sick out while New Orleans moves back to an indoor mask mandate, the latest on COVID-19 across Louisiana. Stay with us.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. As the Omicron surge continues, schools across the state are turning virtual. Some teachers in East Baton Rouge Parish raised concerns the district is not doing enough to protect students and staff. One union held a sick out Wednesday. Our Rachel Riley breaks down how that went.
Even though teachers are very resilient, at some point you come to your breaking point.
Valencia Johnson, president of the EBR Parish Association of Educators, says teachers have reached that point and are now trying to force the school district to return to virtual learning.
We're not trying to fight against administration or the superintendent. We just want to do what we know is best for kids.
Needs have gone on deaf ears. We feel that there was something that we needed to do.
The EBR school system says 760 teachers were absent Wednesday, but the district says that is the average because of the recent COVID-19 and flu surge. However, union leaders say their efforts did not go unnoticed.
We have gotten reports from schools. They have to send people from the district Our whole schedule changed for today. We even got reports from parents saying that their kids were calling them to come pick them up.
Matthew says this current surge is too much for students and teachers to handle in person.
Remote would cut down on the absences.
A separate teachers union announced they were not doing the sick out, which could have impacted the numbers.
I definitely feel that there's power in numbers.
They're looking to continue to work to make their voices heard. Rachel Riley, NBC Local 33 News.
Governor John Bel Edwards updating the state on the COVID-19 surge Thursday after multiple new single-day case records, still holding off another statewide mask mandate. Currently, people under the age of 18 are leading the surge of new cases. Governor Edwards says many people are not as worried about Omicron because it is not as deadly as Delta, but it still is taking a toll on the healthcare system.
For those people who think, well, this Omicron surge is not as serious because not the same percentage of people are getting severely ill, we have more children in the hospital today than we've had at any point.
Governor Edwards says he is watching the hospital capacity around the state to see if a mask mandate would be needed again. In response to the growing number of cases, the city of New Orleans is reinstating their indoor mask mandate. LBJ gets reaction on Magazine Street.
With the city of New Orleans hovering around 1,233 daily cases reported and a positivity rate at 31% from the Omicron variant, officials feel it's time for action.
The city of New Orleans is reinstating the indoor mask mandate at all indoor spaces, including schools, which most of ours, thank goodness, have already adopted, effective tomorrow at 6 a.m. and will remain in place until further notice.
City Health Director Dr. Jennifer Avegno also cited the current stress on both schools and our hospital system for the move.
Patients, in some cases, are lined up in the hallways. And I will tell you, for me personally, that's really difficult to see. This is something that used to happen when I trained at Charity Hospital. It was not appropriate then, and we knew it. It's not appropriate now.
Folks we spoke with on Magazine Street welcome the measure.
I think that's great. I hear that, the COVID is really spreading a lot now.
I understand, and I'm very much for it. Our leadership here in the city wants to keep us all healthy and safe as we go into possibly a wonderful carnival season.
Speaking of carnival season, officials stated that the indoor mask mandate would last through Mardi Gras, but some wondered aloud whether more mitigation measures should be taken.
I have to wonder if Mardi Gras needs to be scaled down or something, it's a public health matter. And when you get drunk, you're not very conscious of public health.
There you have it. All right, that was LBJ reporting. The mandate is now in effect. East Baton Rouge Parish Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome says she has no plans to reestablish a mask mandate for the parish at this time. Well, if you're behind on your mortgage or facing foreclosure because of the pandemic, you may now be eligible for some help. The state has created the Louisiana Homeowners Assistance Fund, where homeowners can get up to $25,000 in assistance. You can find a link on our website to apply or find out if you're eligible, or download our free Be Our Proud app. Coming up after the break, Shannon Heck sits down with Senate hopeful Gary Chambers, why he says he's not running against Senator John Kennedy, but for the people of Louisiana. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. Yet another person has put their name in the running for the U.S. Senate seat that is currently held by Senator John Kennedy. I'm joined by Gary Chambers now, who is that person who looks to take him on the Democratic side. Gary, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. Happy New Year to you.
And Happy New Year to you. So I want to learn a little bit more about you and let our viewers get a chance to know you. So tell me a little bit about your background.
I've been an advocate and a business owner here in Baton Rouge for years now. And had the opportunity to serve in different capacities in our community and volunteerism, but mostly pushing for equity and equality and economic reform in North Baton Rouge, and also helping pursue justice in different avenues throughout this state, fighting for families that have been wrongly harmed by police officers in our state, and for equity in contracts and inclusion throughout the local community as well as our state, and healthcare access and tons of other things. The list is long of the work we've been a part of, and proud to be in a position to be able to fight for democratic and equitable values in the U.S. Senate.
And this is not your first time running for federal office, right? You ran for LA 2, which is currently Troy Carter's seat. So tell me about that race that you were a part of.
Yeah, we had an amazing race. We missed the runoff by 1 percentage point, which I believe shows that people in this state are hungry for real change. We've joked that if we had another $100,000 or another week, we probably would have made it to the runoff. But we've learned some things from that experience. We've built momentum. We had thousands of people sign up to volunteer, thousands of donors from around the country. And so we're going to take the momentum from that into this race. The lessons we've learned, we've built a more robust staff this time to help us be competitive. And so we're going to do the work of touching voters and talking to people all over this state, and they're all 64 parishes, to do the work of proving to people that Louisiana does not have to rank 50th in the nation if we had leaders that voted in the best interest of the people.
So tell me why you wanted to run against John Kennedy.
I'm not necessarily running against Kennedy. I'm running for the people. When we look at where Louisiana is, we rank number 46 in healthcare, 47 in education, 50th in crime, 49th in environmental quality, 50th overall. And Kennedy has been elected nearly as long as I've been alive. And so you don't get to talk about having responsibility for the wins in Louisiana, but no responsibility for the fact that we rank 50th in the nation. And so I'm running so that my daughter, who's 12 years old, doesn't move from this state to somewhere else because we don't create the opportunities for her to be able to live her wildest dreams here. I'm running for the people in forgotten communities like North Baton Rouge and other areas in rural North Louisiana that believe that the government isn't listening to them, isn't responding to them. I'm running for the families who had no power for a month after Hurricane Ida, the people that were devastated by Hurricane Laura, because we need a senator that's going to vote for infrastructure dollars to address the problems that we have in infrastructure in the state of Louisiana. And so I'm not necessarily running against John Kennedy. I'm running for the people to give representation that will actually prioritize them.
And if you are fortunate enough to make it over to Congress, what are some of the big discussions that you're hoping to be a part of? Anything that you're hoping to make change on the federal level?
Well, for one, you know, the infrastructure bill is something I would have voted for had I been in the U.S. Senate, because the billions of dollars that it will bring into Louisiana. I believe President Biden's Build Back Better plan that's being stalled right now is something I also would support, because we've got to have plans that don't just make companies whole, but make the American people whole, that help us address child poverty, the child tax credit that is helping bring so many people out of poverty by giving families with children that check that helps them use their other resources to maybe do something to give them the opportunity into entrepreneurship or to get ahead of the savings. And so we've got to make sure that the things that we're working on for our government actually deliver results for the American people. Voting rights. We've got 50 different states that play by 50 different sets of rules when it comes to elections, and that is not election integrity. We need to have a federal election standard so that no matter where you live in this country, the rules don't change when you go to vote.
And you are now the second Democrat that has put their name in this race. Luke Mixon is also running against John Kennedy. So how do you feel that you differ from Luke Mixon?
Well, I think anybody who decides to run has the opportunity to do that. I think some of the key differences are that I have been publicly in the community advocating for these changes for nearly a decade now. I think that the ability that we've shown in our last race to raise money from donors in states all over this country, over 15,000 donors to our congressional race, the fact that we've learned something about running for office and have a strategy about how we reach voters and contact them. And we have a proven track record of showing up for people in the community. And so we are focused on more so what we bring to the table than we are what anybody else is doing.
And you got a lot of national attention even on your grassroots movement for the House seat that you ran for. So do you feel that, I know you're only about a day into your official announcement as we record this, but do you feel you're going to get that same momentum? Are you seeing a lot of support already for your new campaign?
Well, we have definitely had support from everywhere, and I'm excited about it. But we're not taking anything for granted. We're going to work every day. As soon as I hop off with you, I'm on to another call, and we're going to be calling folks all over the state asking for their support. And then we're going to be calling folks around the country, asking them to come and make Louisiana a priority, because I believe that Louisiana can do what Georgia did if we organize, mobilize, and strategize to that end, that we can do what Georgia's done, which is elect Democrats to the U.S. Senate.
And you're well known around here in Baton Rouge and the New Orleans area. I see a big challenge that you could potentially be facing is getting your name out there to northern Louisiana, to southwest Louisiana. So how are you working to reach out to those communities, and what would you like those communities to know about you?
Well, one of the values that I have in this conversation is what I appreciate is we have done work in other areas of the state and have relationships with people in the four corners of Louisiana. We're going to expand those relationships. We're going to work to earn every vote in every region. But, you know, I've had a few moments of advocacy here in Baton Rouge that have really touched the four corners of the state. And I believe that there are more people in this state who are already fired up and ready to go to support this campaign. We just need to make sure that they know we're in the race.
All right, Gary Chambers, U.S. Senate candidate, thank you so much for joining us and telling us all about you.
Thank you so much for having me, and Happy New Year again.
Happy New Year. We'll be right back.
This is your local election headquarters.
Welcome back. Looking ahead to the coming week, on Tuesday, pre-filing of bills for the 2022 legislative session will begin, so we will get a new look at what the hot topics of the session will be. At the state level, the final redistricting roadshow meeting will be held at the state capitol, and that will happen on Thursday. Thank you for joining us for This Week in Louisiana Politics. I'm Fred Childers. Stay safe, stay informed, and I'll see you next Sunday right here on your local election headquarters.